Hello again, everyone.
Hello again, teacher.
How are
Hello,
you,
teacher.
Gloria?
I'm a great teacher. And you?
I'm very well. In spite of not being able to find guaco, I'm very well. Okay. I think only the name of it gave me a better health condition. Okay.
Oh
Guac,
my God. Only
guaco.
the name.
Yes. I pronounce
Imagine
it.
imagine
If I
you
had
drink.
taken the real thing, huh?
Eh?
Yes. I
Imagine
think
if you drink the tea.
yes. Then I would be, as Gislaine said, full of beans, okay? Full of energy,
Yeah.
okay? All right. Yesterday we were talking about routines. We heard the listening. Yes, we started
Yes.
the reading, but I guess we have not finished. Yes?
No.
Yes.
No.
What page
No.
did we stop?
Uh, Page 7, teacher. I was filled with an urge to suddenly. I was
I was I was
filed,
filled.
filled with
Uh,
an
It's
urge.
funny. Usually we are always right at the first time, understand? When we try to correct, we pronounce
Yes,
something wrong. Okay,
I
Regina?
I have
I
a
was
doubt.
I was filled with an
Disconnecting.
urge to suddenly jump out. Yes. Yes?
I was filled with
Teacher,
an urge.
Filled,
are
Yes.
you
filled,
me?
filled.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah, I
Filled.
filled
File is one
filled
L,
with it.
one L, and it is another completely different word. Like when you worked as a principal in a school, you had the files with the name of the students, their academic grades. These were files, and we
Yes,
would put
yes,
them in a
file.
metal cabinet file. Remember? That is filed. Here's
One
filled.
L only.
Yes, double L, you say
Yes, teacher.
fill. Yes, one L. And it's
Yes,
FILE to file. Like you have in
file.
file in the Word, you
Yes.
have their
In
file
the computer. In the
in the
computer we have
computer.
files.
Yes,
In
and then
computers.
this is filled, like to fill up the tank, to fill up the glass. Okay, it's to
Filled.
fill. All right. Before starting reading again, I would just play the recording one more time because I think it's very important for you to listen, try to assimilate the new words, especially the pronunciation. Okay.
Yes.
So, and of course, you can see it here. I will show you here. Okay, Erica, before you complain.
Okay, teacher. Thank you very much.
See, I'm feeling very generous today. Okay. So don't
Yes,
take
I
advantage of
agree.
my generosity. Okay. All right.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, because the women, when they see the man is very generous, they take advantage of us. Okay.
Routine. Parade works.
Yes, women
As I
are
walked down the same street
dangerous.
almost every day for the
Hello.
last 23 years, stopped at the same coffee shop almost every day for the last 6, and ordered the same drink I had each of those days, I marveled at how routine my day was. I nodded to the woman who always walked her dogs at the same time I went out for coffee, as her smallest dog peed on the same tree it always did. I smiled and waved to the little girl I had watched trade her stroller for a bicycle a few years earlier, and gave 50 cents to the homeless guy who always stands on the corner singing love songs. As I entered the little cafe on the north side of the street, not at all startled by the bell on the door, the heavily tattooed girl behind the counter smiled and turned to get my medium coffee, with room for milk. I took it from her with the same smile and nod I had given the woman with the dogs and the little girl on the bike, dropping my change into her tip jar. At the few tables were mostly college students, reading books and typing furiously on their laptops. I sighed nostalgically for the time when I had as much purpose in my day. I was still going through the same motions, had my routine down to the minute, but the pieces of it, in which I used to actually get things done, were missing. Now, I just floated from place to place, smiling at strangers. Acknowledging this, I shuddered as if I'd felt a draft, though there was none. My routine had seemed comforting when I was in school when my stagnancy was a requirement of progress, but now there was no goal being worked toward, no purpose being served. I was a college graduate with no prospects, living at home. I had no excuse keeping me from going out into the world, but I still wasn't doing it. I left the coffee shop and walked straight to my bench in the park, only peripherally aware of the few minutes it took to get there. The transition from traffic noises to park noises was as familiar, and taken for granted, as the transition from inhale to exhale. As I sat down, I took the lid off of my coffee so that it would cool, putting the cup down on the bench to my left and taking a magazine out of my bag. The old lady who was always in the park, watching the leaves move in the breeze, smiled in the way that scrunched her nose, and waved rapidly in my direction. I waved back and smiled, the same smile reserved for the dog walker, the little girl, and the coffee shop girl. I wondered how many years the old lady had been coming to the park, sitting on the same bench every day. I looked at her stooped shoulders and her shriveled hands in a neat little pile on her lap, and wondered how long I could go on doing the same thing every day. I was filled with an urge to suddenly jump up and break the pattern, but all I could really master was moving my coffee to my other side and switching which leg was crossed over the other, exhaling sharply, like a cat that had been inadvertently kicked in the middle of the night. I looked up at the sun slanting through the branches of the trees, stopping to think for a moment about what a gorgeous day it was. That just made my agitation worse because it meant that it was all me. I couldn't blame my frustration on anything external, no rain clouds threatening in the distance. It was a perfect day complete with golden sunshine and a gentle breeze. But I felt like I was going to explode. I could almost hear the high-pitched whistle of a teapot in my ears. I got up, threw out my coffee, and walked out of the park. I imagined that the old lady was shocked by my sudden departure, but I didn't turn back to see for sure. I kept my eyes on the sidewalk as I retraced my steps, hoping to avoid any more gratuitous exchanges of neighborly pleasantries. When I walked into the apartment, my 5-year-old sister ran up and gave me a hug, telling me about the adventures she and her dolls had had that day, like she always did. My mother looked up from the table and then back at her watch, raising an eyebrow. She had much less of a routine than I did, but had still noticed that mine was off, heightening my anxiety. I didn't explain. I accepted the pipe cleaner ring my sister had made for me as graciously as I could manage. The ring was actually kind of pretty in a costume jewelry kind of way. I went into my room and threw my sweatshirt over the back of the chair, noticing with irritation that it seemed to fall in exactly the same position it was earlier that morning. I counted the money in the box on my dresser and noted the fact that since I hadn't been doing anything with myself, I had managed to save a pretty decent amount of money. I figured that almost $2,000 should be enough for a ticket somewhere, and room and board long enough to find a new job. But where? I had always wanted to move to Amsterdam, but visas took more time than I felt I had. I worried that if I took time to plan, I might lose my motivation. The routine might pull me back into its comfortable wasteland, and I might forget I was unsatisfied. After all, I hadn't realized it until that afternoon. If it was that easy to suddenly see, it might be just as easy to lose sight of, a fact that terrified me. After about an hour of pacing, straightening books on the shelf and kicking shoes into place, I settled on San Francisco. It was the most obvious promised land, the place to strive for, home of the fresh and shiny new life. I even considered reading on the road while on my way there, but decided it would be pushing the cliché farther than I was willing. Instead, I grabbed East of Eden, also about ending up in California. I went through the rest of my day and evening in a sort of trance, tingling with excitement, but so determined and focused that I had a sort of tunnel vision. I was surprised by how little my mother objected. She seemed to understand that I had to go, but I also suspected she didn't believe I would stay away. My sister, on the other hand, did object. Her pout was so exaggerated I almost laughed while explaining that I loved her very much, would be back to visit, and that she could visit me whenever she wanted to. I also promised I would wear the pretty ring she had made so I could keep her with me while I was away. That seemed to work a little, and she skipped away and back to her satisfying life. I found a plane ticket online for 2 weeks away, figuring that would be long enough to say goodbye to my friends and figure out where I would stay when I got there, but not long enough to relax into routine. I spent the next 2 weeks saying I don't know. I just have to get out of here and do something to everyone I knew. They all shook their heads, some disbelieving, some impressed, some jealous and some disapproving. But they were all surprised. Apparently all of my friends had been aware of how regimented my life was and had seen the rut I was too deeply in to see for myself. However, almost all of them insisted they didn't consider it a rut. I found a reasonably priced youth hostel right near Golden Gate Park, and was having a great time discovering a new city. I went for long walks every day, exploring and looking for a job. But first, I walked down the tree-lined street the hostel was on into a nice little coffee shop I had discovered my second day in town. On my 10th day in San Francisco, I went in and ordered a medium coffee, with room for milk, and smiled at the guy behind the counter who was beginning to recognize me. I threw some coins into his tip jar and walked the 2 blocks to the park, heading straight for the tree I had taken to sitting under. As I settled myself onto a protruding root, I took the lid off of my coffee and set it down on another root to my left. I took out a magazine and settled in to read and sip my coffee. As I waved to the girl who had been in the park every day for the past week, who smiled at me when she saw I was sitting in the same spot again, I froze. I couldn't believe I hadn't seen it happening. Laughing a little, I looked around wondering if anyone else got the joke. Clearly, no one else did. Began thinking of Dorothy, who had run all over us when really she just needed to wake up and see that she had the power to fix her own problems. I walked back to the hostel, shaking my head and wondering whether I was going to find the interesting career or project or whatever it was that would make routine comforting again in San Francisco, or anywhere. Knowing that it didn't really matter, I, of course, ended up going back home, much to my sister's delight. The lady with the dogs, the girl with the bike, the girl at the coffee shop and the old lady in the park all asked me where I had been. And I told them all animatedly of the search for myself that had brought me all the way back to the street I grew up on.
Okay, back to the daily routine. Okay. Did you find any other word or expression that it was kind of different or unusual for you? Or not really? Hello? Are you guys still there?
Yes.
Or
Is
everybody
anyone there?
slept?
Yes, yes.
Ah, even Oscar is here. Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Ah, okay. I thought you guys were sleeping there, okay?
No, not yet.
Because of the boring routine. Okay. Okay, let's finish reading this. Let's talk about it, okay? According to Gloria, we stopped here, but we read this part or we didn't read this part? I was filled with an urge.
Didn't read, teacher. We didn't
So
Yeah.
could
read.
you please read it for me, please?
I agree with you, Gloria.
Thank you.
Me?
Can
Me?
you read it, Gloria? Yes.
I was filled with
Filled.
filled I was filled with an urge to suddenly jump up and break the pattern. But all I could really master was moving my cuff to my other side and switching which leg was crossed, crossed
Crossed.
over the other, crossed over the other, exhaling sharply,
Exhaling. Exhaling. We say
exhaling sharply,
inhale, exhale. Okay, so
Yes.
oh,
exhaling sharply, like a
exhaling
cat.
sharply, like a cat that had been
Kicked.
inadvertently kicked in the middle of the night. I looked up at the sun slanting
The
through
branch.
the branches of the tree, stopping to think for a moment about what a gorgeous day it was. It was. That just made my agitation worse became because
Because
it meant that it was all me. I couldn't blame my frustration on anything external. No rain clouds
threatening.
threatening in the distance. It was a perfect day, complete with golden sunshine and a gentle breeze. But I was going to explode. I could almost hear the high pitched whistle uh,
Whistle.
of a whistle of a teapot in
Teapot.
my ears.
Teapot in my ear.
Teap, teapot in my ears.
Okay. Any question about this?
Yes.
Whistling.
Islanting.
Okay,
Whistling,
whistle. Yes. Do you know those?
whistle.
It's very common in Europe, in England, to have a teapot that when you put it in the fire, when the water boils, it starts whistling. Okay.
Teapot. I have a
Yes.
teapot.
Oh, okay. So a high pitched, that means the volume of that thing is annoying. You can listen it from one block away, understand? Because it's a very intense noise, high pitched whistle of a teapot in my ears. Another, Erika, you did ask me
Islanting.
some.
The
It's
sun is slanting.
going down, okay?
Okay.
Disappearing through the branches of the tree.
Okay, thank you.
Another question about this or no? Regina, Cecília, Gislaine,
No, teacher.
Vanessa. No questions?
No. The same,
Okay.
my dog is the
Okay.
same other people.
Gislaine, can you read this next part for me, please?
Yes.
I will break it here. These paragraphs are very long. Okay, I'll break it here, okay?
Okay.
I got
I
up.
I got up, threw out my coffee, and walked out of the park. I imagined that the walk.
Imagine, I imagine. Imagine all the people.
I imagined that the old lady was shocked by my sudden
Sudden departure.
departure. But I didn't turn back to see for sure. I kept my eyes
I
on the
kept. Past
I
tense of keep.
oh
Keep
yeah.
kept.
I kept my eyes on the sidewalk as I retraced my steps, hoping to avoid any more gratuitous exchanges of neighborly pleasantries.
Okay.
When I walked into the apartment, my 5-year-old sister ran up and gave me a hug, telling me about the adventures she and her dolls had had that day, like she always did. My mother looked up from the table and then back at her watch, raising an
Eyebrow.
eyebrow.
Eyebrow. You have a problem with the eye, huh?
Oh,
Eye.
yes.
In the other class was the same. It's eyebrow. Okay.
Eyebrow.
Okay.
Yes.
He's the cousin of Charlie Brown. Okay. Eyebrow. Any question about this?
Gratuitous exchanges.
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 Gratuitous is the same of free. Free.
Free.
Exchanges is, for
Yes.
example, out of courtesy, every day when I go out. Ah, okay. So I don't need to explain.
I know. Yes.
Yes.
I know exchange.
Okay.
And
Another
teacher,
question about this part? Yes.
Pleasantries. Pleasantries.
Yes, it's the expressions that we use just to show the people that we are nice, like, good morning, how are you feeling today? Sometimes we give a smile to a neighbor, understand? These are all ways of pleasing other people, okay? So she was so irritated at her routine that she walked back home trying to avoid any kind of exchanging expressions or smiles with anyone. Okay.
Okay.
Another question?
No.
Oh,
Vanessa, Marcela, Oscar, no problem.
it's okay.
Okay, Vanessa, can you read this next part for me, please? She had much less of a routine than I did.
She had much less of a routine than I did, but had still noticed that mine was off. Heightening my
My anxiety.
anxiety. I didn't explain. I accepted the pipe cleaner, ring my sister had made for me graciously as I could manage. The ring was actually kind of pretty in a custom, jolly kind of way. I went into my room and threw my sweatshirt over the back of the chair.
Sweatshirt.
Sorry?
Sweatshirt.
Sweatshirt over the back of the chair, noticing with irritation that it seemed to fall in exactly the same position it was earlier that morning.
Okay. Any question?
Pipe cleaner, teacher.
This is something kind of silly. Okay.
I'm so sorry.
What's a pipe? First, let's understand it in parts. Maybe you can get the idea. Do you know what's a pipe?
Yes.
Sherlock Holmes used to smoke a pipe. You know? It's a kind of a smoke, but we have, for example, cigarettes, we have cigars, we have pipes. Pipes, like in the movie Sherlock Holmes, he was always smoking a pipe. Okay?
Oh, okay.
All right. And then sometimes the pipe gets dirty and it's necessary to clean it, because if you don't clean, you cannot inhale the smoke, right? So you have little things like, looks like, do you know what's a swab?
Yes.
A swab?
Oh, what is it swab?
You know, one of the COVID-19 tests, okay?
Yes.
They introduce a swab in your nose cavity and they rotate it there. Okay, that's a swab. You can also use to clean your ears sometimes. Okay, there is a little thing that is like a swab, but it's all flexible that you insert in the pipe to clean it. Understand?
Mm.
And little girls, what they do, they make rings with these, like in the shape of, let me see, maybe Google can, let me see, how to make pipe cleaner daisy rings. Yes, Google, you find everything. Okay, yes, I found it. Oh, okay, accept the cookies. I will show you here. Oh, can you see or no?
Oh, yes, the flower.
Yes, that is made with pipe cleaner. Okay, it's a pipe cleaner ring. Oh, pipe cleaner daisy rings. See the name? Pipe cleaner daisy rings. Okay, so the sister made a ring for her like this. Okay, and it's used with these little bristles, these little swabs that you use to clean a pipe. Okay. Another question or no?
What kind of way means in this sentence, teacher?
I'm sorry. Let me go back there. Where is it?
Kind of way.
Ah, the ring was actually kind of pretty in a custom jewelry kind of way. That means similar to,
Okay. Similar
okay?
to.
Yes. But it wasn't jewelry. It was just a pipe ringer, cleaner ring, okay?
Okay.
This is little children, they have fun making this. Another question or no? Vanessa, Cecilia,
No,
Marcela,
No.
Oscar.
it's okay.
No, teacher.
No.
Okay, Marcela,
Okay,
can you read this other part for me, please? Oh, I'll
Yeah.
break it here. Unsatisfied.
I counted the money in the box on my dresser and noted the fact that since I hadn't been doing anything with myself, I had managed to save a pretty decent amount of money. I figured
Figured.
figured that almost 2,000 should be enough for a ticket somewhere and room and board long enough to find a new job. But where? I had always wanted to move to Amsterdam, but visas took more time than I felt I had. I worried that if I took time to plan, I might lose my motivation. The routine might pull me back into its comfortable wasteland, and I might forget I was unsatisfied.
Okay.
Unsatisfied?
Unsatisfied.
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 Okay.
Unsatisfied.
Any question about this?
No.
Cecilia,
Wasteland.
Oscar. Huh?
Wasteland.
Wasteland.
Wasteland, yeah.
Yeah.
Wasteland.
Yes, in a land where she was wasting her time. Okay, she created this term in a comfortable
Yeah.
wasteland. Okay, and I might forget I was unsatisfied. Okay, this is one of those crises we go through sometimes. She decided to change everything at the same time, understand? To break all the routine. So she went back home after realizing that everything she did was exactly the same every day. Okay, she would smile to the same people, she would get the same type of coffee, she would sit at the same bench at the park, she would always see the same people. She thought, that's enough. I want to change this. and then she went back home and decided to check the money she had and thought, with this money, I can start a new life somewhere. She had thought about Amsterdam, but it would be necessary a visa. And then she didn't want to waste any more time, because if she stayed there, probably she wouldn't go anywhere. That's the idea, okay?
Yeah.
Cecilia, can you read this other part? After all?
After all, I had really realized to the afternoon, it was that easy to suddenly see. It might be just easy to lose sight of a fact that terrified me. After about an hour of pacing, straightening books out the shelf and kicking shoes into place, I settled on San Francisco. It was the most obvious promised land, the place to strive for home on the fresh and shiny life. I even considered reading on the road
while on my way there.
On my way there, but decided we will be pushing the cliche further than I was willing. Instead, I grabbed
East of Eden.
East of Eden, as also about ended up in California.
Okay. Any question about this part that Cecilia read?
What's mean?
I4.
Yes, Oscar, what's the question?
What's East of Eden? East is what mean this name?
Striking.
It's the name of the book.
Okay. Okay.
East of Eden. Okay.
East of Eden, yeah.
Yes, Eden was the first man on the earth, like Adam. I know that was Eve, Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
Eden, yeah, East of Eden is the name of the book. Okay.
Okay.
She grabbed this book. Okay. Yeah, grab is to put your hands on and hold it tight. She grabbed it. East of Eden. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other question about this part?
We strive for the place
to strive for, to start a new life. Okay. It was the most obvious promised land, the place to strive for, home of the fresh and shiny new life.
Shiny, teacher.
Huh?
Shiny.
Shiny?
Yes.
Yes, something that shines, Regina. Like sometimes, I think you don't do this, but I sometimes shine my shoes. You know, so they are very shiny, okay? Once every 10 years, for example.
Yes.
Teacher, the new life is straightening. What means straightening?
Straightening. Books on the shelf, yes?
Yes.
Oh. Okay, she decided that she was going to break the routine, right? So after about an hour of pacing, walking around her room, straightening books, some books, imagine you have a bookshelf with a lot of books. Some of the books were inclined, and then she straightened the books. She put them in the straight position, straightening books on the shelf, kicking shoes into place. She decided on San Francisco. I settled on San Francisco. Okay?
Okay.
Any other question about this part or no?
No.
Okay. Oscar, can you read this other part for me, please?
Yes.
I'll break it here.
Where?
I went through.
Here, wanted to.
Okay.
I went through the rest of my day.
I went through the rest of my day and evening in a sort of trance.
Yes.
Tingling.
Tingling.
With
With
excitement, but so determined and focused. Determined
And focused that I
and
had.
focused that I had a sort of tunnel vision. I was surprised by how little my mother objected. She seemed to understand that I had to go, but I also suspected she didn't believe I would stay away. My sister, on the other hand, did object. Her put was so exaggerated, I almost laughed while laughed while explaining that I love her very much, would be back to visit, and that she could visit me whenever she wanted to.
Okay. Any question about this?
Seemed, teacher.
She seemed to understand. Yes, the impression that she gave to me is that she understood. When, for example, sometimes you look at the sky and you say, it seems that it's going to rain. That's the impression that you get from the sky. Sometimes you see a man dressed in white pants, white shoes, white shirt, and then you think, who is that guy? I don't know. He seems to be a doctor because he's all dressed in white. But I don't know. This can be only my impression, okay?
Okay.
She seemed to understand. The impression that she gave me is that she understood that I had to go. Okay? Another question about this. Pout.
Pout.
This is a new word. Probably it has never appeared in any of our classes. You know, when little children, they make a big beak, like this is pout, okay? It's when you, like, they don't want to cry, so they just pout, like.
Tingling, teacher.
This is easy to explain. I don't know if you ever have. She was, or he was. I don't know. She was in a sort of trance. Trance means in a different vibe. Understand? Tingling with excitement. Tingling. Sometimes, especially, I think it's not your case because you are a very young girl. But old people, when we stay the same position for some time, certain parts of the body we start having a little tingling. This is just like little ants are walking inside, are moving inside, understand? It's a little tingling, okay?
Okay.
So she was
Formigamento,
tingling.
tipo isso?
Yeah, wow, exactly this. I don't know how I was able to explain, but that's it, exactly. She was tingling with excitement, okay? Tava fumigando de excitamento.
Okay.
Another question?
A sort of trance is a expression?
What?
Sort of trance.
In a sort of trance. Yes, in a kind of, a sort of. Trance is like in Portuguese, when we say transe, estava num transe hipnótico.
I understand trance.
No.
Trance. Okay.
Yes. Another question?
It's okay.
All right. Regina, can you read this next part? I also promised I would wear the pretty ring.
I also promised I would wear the pretty ring she had made so I could keep her with me while
I was away.
With me while I was away. That seemed to work a little, and she skipped away and back to her satisfying life. I found a plane ticket online for 2 weeks away. Figuring, no, figuring
Figuring,
that.
you are right. Only at the first time. At the second time, when you try to fix, you usually mispronounce.
So sorry. Figuring that
Figuring that would be long enough.
would be long enough to say goodbye to my friends and figuring out where I would stay when I got there, but not long enough to relax into routine. I spent the next two
Any,
weeks.
no, I broke there. I separated the paragraph there. Any question about
Okay.
this part?
No.
Okay, Gislaine, can you read the other part for me, please? I spent the next 2 weeks.
Okay, I spent the next 2 weeks saying, I don't know. I just have to get out of here and do something to everyone I knew. They all shook their heads, shook their
Their
heads,
heads.
some disbelieving, some impressed, some jealous, and
Jealous.
jealous, and some disapproving. But they were all surprised. Apparently, all of my friends had been aware of how regimented my life was and had seen the rut I was too deeply into see for myself. However, almost all of them insisted they didn't consider it a rut.
Question about this?
Rut.
Abbreviation for routine.
Okay.
Jealous.
Jealous? Who is asking me this?
Marcela. Why?
Yes, because it's very easy to explain to you. Okay, when Victor gets home, all right, and he leaves his phone unlocked near you, do you ever get his phone and take a look at the WhatsApp message to see if any girl wrote to him or sent him some nudes or things like that?
Teacher.
Or no? I'm just asking, just asking.
Oh, no.
Do you check his phone
Yes,
or you
not
never
yet.
look?
Yes, yes.
Sometimes I check.
Okay, this means that you are jealous, understand?
She's jealous.
Yes, because you want to see if he's been talking to other girls, understand? Many girls and many guys too, they are jealous. You know, when they love someone, they become very jealous, okay? This is the idea. Some are jealous, some disapproving, okay?
Okay.
So you are a jealous, regimented. Yeah, that means a routine, a strict routine, just like you are in the military forces, understand?
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
No problem.
It's
Another question?
normal to say my root?
Yes. Yes. If you look up in a dictionary, you see it's a possible synonym for routine. Okay. Okay. Gloria, I broke the paragraph, but can you read a part for me? I found a reasonably priced youth hostel.
I found a reasonable.
No, reasonably.
Nable. A
No, it's
reasonable priced.
Reasonably,
Reasonably
yeah, it's the
priced
adverb. Priced youth hostel.
youth hostel right near Golden Gate Park, and was having a great time discovering a new city. I went for long walks every day, exploring and looking for a job. But first, I walked down the tree-lined street the hostel was on, and to a nice little coffee shop I had discovered my second day in town.
Thank you. Any question about this part?
No.
Okay. Oscar, can you finish reading this other part for me?
Okay. On my 10th day in San Francisco, I went in and ordered a medium coffee with room for milk and smiled at the guy behind the counter who was beginning to recognize me. I threw some coins into his tip jar and walked the 2 blocks to the park, reading heading straight for the tree I had taken to sit under. As I seated myself,
settled myself.
As I settled myself on the
Protruding.
root, I took the lid off my coffee and set it down on another root to my left. I took out a magazine and settled in the read and sipped my coffee. As I waved to a girl who had been in park every day for the past week, who smiled at me when she saw I was sitting in the same spot again. I froze. I couldn't believe
Just a moment.
I couldn't believe I hadn't seen it happening.
Laughing
Laughing a little.
Laughing a little.
Yes, laughing a little. I looked around, wondering if anyone else had got the joke. Clearly, no one else did.
Okay. You see, so she moved the city, she moved the coffee shop, but she was back into the same routine.
Yes.
Yes. Crazy girl.
Every day.
She couldn't believe. She couldn't
with
believe.
With the room for milk, she gave some tip, some coins to the tip jar. She walked from the coffee shop to a park. Instead of sitting at a bench, she sat at the same tree every day.
Yeah.
She smiled at the girl. And then she realized that she was exactly doing the same thing. That's why
the same situation the other city.
Exactly. So she went back to a new routine, a new old routine.
We changed the place.
Yes.
Yeah.
From a bench to a root.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have just a little part. Could you please finish reading this and answer the questions? On Monday, I will talk about this comprehension and then we'll start a new lesson, all right?
All right, teacher.
I hope you girls have a great weekend. If you're going to vote, think well before giving your vote to any politician. Let's see if things in Brazil finally change. Have a nice weekend anyway, and I'll see you on Monday, all right?
Thank you.
Right,
Thank you,
teacher.
Roberto.
You
Have
too.
a nice weekend.
Bye, guys.
Bye,
You too.
guys.
Weekend
Have
for
a nice
all.
weekend.
Nice weekend too, Gloria, and everyone.